There's a question that sounds simple until you actually sit with it. Why don't predators just eat us in our sleep? No weapons, no awareness, completely still. It should be the easiest kill on the planet. And yet it almost never happens. The real answer isn't one thing. It's a layered, ancient agreement between us and the wild. And it goes back further than you'd ever guess. Let's start by killing the assumption everyone makes without realizing it. We picture a sleeping human as prey. Soft, slow, unarmed. But that's not how a predator sees it. Not even close. Here's the part that sounds like bragging, but is just cold biology. To almost every large predator on Earth, humans are not prey. We're a threat. Not because we're fast or strong, we're neither, but because of what our species has done to every predator population it's ever lived alongside. For roughly 2 million years, humans have been actively hunting large carnivores. Not occasionally, constantly, systematically. Wolves across huge parts of the world were pushed to the edge of extinction by human hunting. Big cats in regions with dense human activity were shot, trapped, and driven out over generations. And here's the twist. The predators that survived weren't the boldest ones. They were the cautious ones. The animals that kept their distance from humans lived long enough to reproduce. The ones that got too close didn't. That's not folklore. That's natural selection, running for thousands of generations. And it built caution directly into the instincts of the animals alive today. A wolf doesn't need to have a bad personal experience with a human to be wary of one. That wariness is already loaded into it before birth, inherited from every ancestor who survived by keeping their distance. So when a predator picks up a human scent at night, it isn't calculating anything. It's reacting to something ancient and automatic, an alarm that's been passed down so many times it no longer needs conscious thought behind it. Now, let's talk about how strange we actually smell. This one rarely gets mentioned, and it's wilder than people expect. Most predators hunt using smell as their primary scent, and their noses are almost unfairly good. Some species can detect scent particles at concentrations we can't even measure. When one of these animals encounters a sleeping human, it isn't picking up meat. It's picking up an overwhelming, chaotic mixture of soap, synthetic fabric, cooked food residue, sunscreen, and whatever else clings to modern human bodies. Underneath all of that, there's a primate smell. But a primate isn't on the menu. A predator's hunting instinct is built around specific, familiar prey, something it has chased and caught 1,000 times. Humans don't match that pattern. We register as an unknown, and unknowns get avoided, not attacked. Predators aren't gamblers. They're closer to insurance adjusters. Every potential meal gets measured against the risk of injury because in the wild, there's no recovery ward for a broken jaw or a torn leg. An unfamiliar target is an unnecessary risk when a known one is nearby, and that math never favors the stranger in the tent. Then there's fire, which might be the single greatest survival advantage our species has ever stumbled into. Fear of fire isn't something animals learn through experience. It's built in. Lab-raised animals that have never seen flame in their lives will still show an avoidance response to smoke. That's how deep this fear runs. Deep enough that evolution wired it in before birth, the same way it wired predator caution around humans. And humans have been sitting beside fire for hundreds of thousands of years, which means for hundreds of thousands of years, every predator that ever crossed paths with a human campsite got the same unmistakable signal. Something dangerous controls this, stay away. A campfire isn't just warmth, it's a broadcast, and every predator alive today inherited the instinct to listen to it, even the ones that have never personally seen a human hold a torch. This is where most people's mental image of predators falls apart completely, because movies have trained us to picture them as reckless killing machines that attack anything that moves. That's fiction. Real predators are closer to extremely conservative investors. Every hunt is a calculation. Is this target worth the energy? Is the risk of injury low enough? Do I actually know how this animal behaves? A sleeping human fails almost every part of that equation. We're unpredictable. We might wake up violently. We might have others nearby who respond immediately. We might simply not behave the way a familiar prey animal would. And there's a size illusion working in our favor too. Humans standing upright read as larger and more assertive than our actual body weight would suggest. Even lying down, our silhouette doesn't match the shape of anything a predator has learned to associate with an easy meal. Combine all of that with the fact that there's almost always a less complicated, more familiar food source somewhere nearby, and the math simply doesn't favor attacking us. Why take the gamble when the safer option is right there, quietly grazing, exactly where it's supposed to be? Now, here's a piece of this puzzle that almost never comes up, and it might be the most overlooked factor of all. You are almost never actually alone. Predators don't just evaluate individual targets. They evaluate groups because their normal prey lives in groups too. A herd animal at the center of the pack is far safer than one caught at the edge. A fish in the middle of a school is nearly impossible to single out compared to one that's drifted away from the others. This is one of the oldest hunting principles in nature. Predators succeed by finding separation, isolating the individual that's fallen behind or wandered off. Humans, even asleep, are rarely isolated in the way a lone animal is. We sleep in camps, in groups, in clusters near a fire, and that changes the entire risk profile for anything considering an approach. A predator doesn't just have to get past one sleeping target. It has to get past the very real chance that a single noise, a single disturbance wakes the whole group at once. And a coordinated group response is exactly the kind of chaotic, unpredictable outcome a predator is evolved to avoid. It's not that predators can't overpower one sleeping human. It's that a clean, low-risk kill turns into a high-risk gamble the moment there's a whole camp of potential witnesses and defenders lying a few feet away. Isolation is what predators are built to exploit. Humans, by instinct and by habit, almost never offer it. Now, I have to be honest with you, because leaving this part out would be irresponsible. None of this means humans are untouchable. Attacks do happen, and when they do, they follow an extremely consistent pattern. Something has gone wrong. Look at the documented cases across history, and a pattern emerges almost every time. An injured predator that can no longer hunt its usual prey and has to gamble on something unfamiliar. An animal whose habitat has been destroyed, cutting off the food sources it would normally rely on. A predator that's had so much exposure to humans that its inherited caution has worn away completely, which happens disturbingly fast when animals learn to associate people with food instead of danger, rather than with fire and threat. Some of history's most infamous predator attacks trace back to exactly this kind of broken circumstance. Animals dealing with injuries that made normal hunting nearly impossible, forced into targeting the one food source left that they could physically still catch. These aren't examples of predators behaving normally. They're examples of what happens when every one of the natural deterrents we just walked through gets stripped away at once. Remove the injury, restore the habitat, keep the fear intact, and the ancient caution reasserts itself almost immediately. And here's the part that genuinely reframes the entire story. The fear we've built into the animal kingdom over thousands of years doesn't just protect us. It reshapes everything around us. When large predators avoid areas with heavy human presence, prey animals in those zones face less hunting pressure and their populations grow. That growth changes vegetation patterns, sometimes dramatically. Smaller predators shift their territory to avoid us too, which changes rodent populations, which changes the plants those rodents eat and the insects that depend on those plants. One inherited fear, radiating outward through an entire ecosystem, layer by layer, all triggered by a species that mostly isn't even trying to cause it. We didn't just survive the wild. We quietly rewired how it operates just by existing in it, long enough for every generation of predator to learn the same lesson and pass it down before ever meeting us personally. So the next time you're in a tent, in the dark, listening to something move just beyond the nylon wall and that old flicker of primal unease creeps in, that's fine. That feeling is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. It's not evidence that you're in danger. It's evidence that the system built to keep your ancestors alive is still fully online, running quietly in the background, exactly as designed. But the thing outside, the one your instincts are warning you about, it's already made its calculation. It's already weighed the risk, measured the unfamiliar shape in the dark, remembered, without ever having to think about it, 10,000 generations of reasons to stay away. And it already knows better than to test you.